Good evening, and thank you for joining us here remotely at the beautiful MPavilion in central Melbourne. My name is Elias Redstone. I'm the Artistic Director of Photo 2020 International Festival of Photography, and I'm delighted to introduce this evening. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Yalukit Walam as the traditional custodians of the land on which MPavilion sits. The Yalukit Walam are part of the Boon Wurrung, one of the 5 major language groups of the Greater Kulin Nations. And I pay my deep respects to their ancestors and their elders, past, present, and emerging. Photo 2020 International Festival of Photography will take place in September in Melbourne and sites across regional Victoria. It will be Australia's largest and most significant photography event, dedicated to new photography and new ideas. Alongside exhibitions and events, the Photo 2020 program will feature new commissions and new work by artists from Australia and around the world, most of which will be presented for free on the streets of Melbourne. The whole festival will revolve around one central theme, the truth. And as a preview to the festival, I'm delighted to welcome Photo 2020 artist Zanele Muholi from South Africa. In a special collaboration, Muholi will be presenting work at the Biennale of Sydney and in September in Melbourne, in the centre of the CBD, come September at Photo 2020. I'd like to thank the City of Melbourne and the Naomi Milgram Foundation for supporting the project, Brooke Andrew and the Biennale of Sydney, and the team at MPavilion for making this event and live stream possible. I will now be handing over to Areej Nur, who will be hosting this event. Areej is a radio producer, presenter, and educator. She is also co-founder of African artist collective Still Nomads, as well as podcast network Broadwave. Most of Areej's work seeks to support women of color to be at the forefront of conversations about media, arts, race, and feminism in Australia. Thank you very much. Over to you.
It's so funny doing this because there's no applause, because there's no people. So it was like, thank you for doing this. And now it's me. I'd also like to acknowledge that we're on the stolen lands of the Boon Wurrung peoples of the Kulin Nations and pay respect to elders past, present, and becoming, and acknowledge the storytelling that has taken place on these lands that we're on currently, and the visual history and the incredible visual art and work that First Nations people in this country and around the world have been taking part in for thousands and thousands of years. I'm really excited to be here with Muholi. We just had a bit of a dinner a bit earlier and we had a nice long chat about several things. But before we get into the proceedings, I'm going to read part of your bio. It's pretty incredible. So Muholi is a South African visual activist and photographer. For over a decade, they have documented Black, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and intersex people's lives in various townships in South Africa, responding to the continuing discrimination and violence faced by the LGBTI community. In 2006, Muholi embarked on an ongoing project, Faces and Phases, in which they depict Black, lesbian and transgender individuals. They studied advanced photography at the Market Photo Workshop in Newtown, Johannesburg, and in 2009 completed an MFA in documentary media at Ryerson University, Toronto. Muholi has won numerous awards, including the ICP Infinity Award for Documentary and Photojournalism, Outstanding International Alumni Award from Ryerson University, the Fine Prize for an Emerging Artist at the 2013 Carnegie International. There are so many awards listed in this. It is almost unbelievable. And I'm really excited that you're here in Melbourne in these unusual and turbulent times and that everyone's joining us after being at the Biennale. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I just want to start by just giving you an idea, and I feel like we did chat a little bit about this earlier, about my exposure to your work. So I found your work online, and then during the triennial at the NGV, which is just over there, I managed to see some of your work. Did you expect that there would be your work in the NGV in Victoria and the African diaspora would come and check it out? Was that an expectation for you when you started out?
When I started out, there's so much that I did not expect, but I was aiming for such spaces beyond South African borders was one space or one of many spaces where I was heading to. So NGV and many other places where we've been at are the main, focused areas of my work, in which I want to share with individuals in those areas to know that they are not alone, because we do not find projections or visuals of our people in many spaces. We still have a shortage of visual history of black and brown people around the world, let alone them being queer or trans, or people who are, who have many identities. So did I expect this particular one? For sure. It might not be NGV as such, but I knew that we were going abroad, somewhere there, to share our voices and ourselves with many individuals. Hence we're here.
There isn't like a shortage of imagery of African people around the world that, people have been taking photos of our people on the continent and in the diaspora, as well as other First Nations people around the world forever. And since photography was a thing and people have been getting awards, taking photos of our people, we have whole magazines that are dedicated to photos of our people, often without their consent, and often the dynamic between photographer and subject is quite complicated. How do you maneuver photography as a medium of your type of empowering work?
Photography become that particular medium that works for me, because it doesn't matter how many languages people speak in any space, they're still able to see. And they understand without even being given complicated synopsis. They see that there's a visual, especially if they have a sense of sight, without disregarding people who are visually impaired, of course. But to say that you see an image, you see a person, you understand if you want to understand. You ignore if you choose to ignore due to your own prejudice. So how I decided to work on photography, I needed some healing specifically. And also to say that images ever existed of a different people around the world. It's true. But then access to those images became an issue. And also you're saying that they were taking images of those people without their consent, and there are those who consented but did not know where the images go to. So in my own understanding or own rights as a person who is also featuring in this project, I thought to myself that we need to be seen. We need to be recognized. We need to understand ourselves, to write a different kind of visual narrative that speaks to so many individuals out there who might not even think that we exist from different communities or societies. So my whole point or my purpose in life, I think that it's my responsibility to share what I have captured. And for many people who are living in different neighborhoods, like here in Melbourne, to see their likenesses in different ways. Because maybe people might not think that there are people like us in another planet, but to see a person like you and me at a museum, at galleries that our people hardly frequent, there's hope. Yeah.
It's exciting because when your work is at the NGV or at other kind of bigger institutions, and you're right, our people do rarely frequent these institutions, it's exciting. Like it is, people actively come to see the work because there's clearly something missing, there's clearly something that's not there. So people do go and actively frequent stuff when your work and other artists' stuff is out there. I want to ask about, you talking about the responsibility that you have of, representing your community and educating. How are you educating people, and who are you educating?
When we talk about education, it goes beyond what is written in the text. One, education for educators and scholars who theorize visual histories, who theorize photography, who theorize culture, or those who are doing cultural studies, who theorize women and gender, you know. And it is through those people who are able to share this knowledge with many other individuals or peers in their field. And then educating our colleagues from different departments who might not be consuming this work on daily basis. So take, for instance, Photo 2020. Photo 2020 exists now because somebody had a thought and wanted to share concepts with people of the world. If that initiative is not shared, it means that we are shortchanging ourselves and also communities out there who might not be aware of works that is done by other photographers around the world. So I think that it takes just one individuals to educate or filter into something that is not there and make sure that it expands and is transferred with many other communities out there. So how do I educate? I capture the image, and that image does not only belong to me, but it belongs to many other individuals who are curious and who want to learn about those kind of people or about certain kind of individuals in that particular in particular spaces. So I bring South African human beings, individuals, activists, colleagues, friends to Melbourne without them being here in Melbourne. And people of Melbourne who might be from South Africa, they think of home if they still call South Africa home. And people from African countries or from the continent who are here or who are born here, who've never been to the continent, they see themselves in us in a different ways. So education goes beyond just like looking, but sharing stories, you know, and also sharing those visuals and also sharing information that is not common or that is not part of the curriculum here in Melbourne.
And more than that, you do specific workshops and work with people in South Africa with photography, right? So there are initiatives that you are part of or that you started where people learn how to take photos and take photos in their communities. What does that look like? It's a matter of like sharing work, and it forms part of my activist work. So what we do is to give equipment to young individuals to take images of their communities and also of themselves, to encourage people to document their own lives because they could tell their stories better than any other person. So they do that actively. And for the past, since 2004, I have been like sharing the skill with many other individuals and also bringing on board other experts or friends who are into media, and they then share the skill with many other individuals. There are people who are teaching writing skills, and with those writing skills, people are able to share, to document themselves, take images, write their own stories, and those stories, they are shared with many other individuals in their communities. So it's an active process, and it basically says you cannot be the only person who's doing that. There are many other individuals who are willing to share and also and to learn and be seen and have their work exhibited in various spaces. So it's not like a one-man project. It's our project. And when I have my work shown at these places, it's not only me, but it's us in those spaces. In that way, people get to see many more than one. When did you first pick up a camera? And when did you first take a self-portrait?
That's a difficult one. I knew that I took my first portrait somewhere there long time ago, but photography is not something that I studied like long. I did not grow up with photographs. I did not grow up with a camera. My mother and father never had cameras, so it's a skill that I pick up along the way, you know. So the first image that I took was when we were fooling around with my friend long time ago. So I'll say it's about like 20 years or more ago, yeah. And the first image that I took was of my legs. And later on, I wanted to explore the body. Because in my headspace, I thought that sexuality of a person is beyond the clothes that we are wearing. So I had like some nice nude shots, which did not show much, but it was of a person. So those are the everlasting, memories I have of me being in the picture as a young person. So there are other images that exist that I won't forget in life of me as a teenager. Those are also nice images, but I so wish that I started when I was very, very young, where I could say that this image is like 35 years old or this image is 40 years old and I took it when I was young, etc., etc. Yeah, I can't say there's this like one particular shot that I shot, the first photo, the first camera. No, that's so, it comes from a space of privilege if one is able to point those moments. Like the first image, my first best camera, I did not. Even my first camera, I bought it at a pawn shop, a second-hand shop. It was about like $60 at that time. And it worked wonders. I had to work first before I became a serious photographer. Yeah.
It's funny that I even asked you that question because as you were answering it, I was thinking, when was the first time I took a photo? When was the first time I took a self-portrait? And you're right, I don't know. I guess it's the questions that we ask photographers, expecting that you remember this significant moment in your life.
Some people remember very well
Yeah.
because they grew up with the cameras in their households. A person would say, my first camera was given to me by my grandfather, and then my grandfather gave it to my mom gave it to me. So it becomes like a generations of photographers in one household. But then for some poor people like me, photo was like, wow. I so wish that one day I could get there. I wish I could take that image. I wish my work could be published. I wish my work could be seen at like big spaces like this festival. So it was just a wish that became a reality.
I want to talk a little bit about your work. What was the first kind of major project that you started?
First major project, it was Only Half the Picture, which looked at the body and the body politics. And I'm featuring mostly into that project. 40% of images in my first manuscript are of images featuring me and friends. And the rest, like 60% or so, has other people in them, which then looks at like portraits and self-portraits. So Only Half the Picture became that major project. And then the project that came after that is or will always be Faces and Phases, which is my dear project because I get to document the lives of people who are close to me or people who are close to friends. So it's a chain of like friends of friends and friends of other friends. So we become a bigger family or a community that has that visual history that exists.
There's something really special about archiving, and I've been thinking a lot about archiving in the last little while. And when I was first introduced to the work of Malik Sidibe and looking at the type of images that he was taking of people that were not necessarily hugely extravagant, they weren't mundane, but they weren't hugely extravagant. But you could really just see that these were archives of photos of these people in this context, and it's something that you can grasp and it was tangible. I felt the same way when I first started looking at Faces and Phases. Was that archiving process ever a part of your thinking?
It's just happened. It just along the way when I had like a number of people came to South Africa post 94 to document or do research on LGBTI people, especially Black LGBTI people. I thought that this is like fascinating me. What is it that people are looking for or looking at? So theory was quite complex, and photography just became that particular thing that, made me want to do something like actively, harshly. And I thought that if other people could do this, I could do it. And if the people are doing it on us, I could even do it better, So without like blaming anyone for not doing anything, I thought that I had a responsibility. I had to take action to document our lives and create an archive that will live on, live beyond us, even when I'm no more, or even when we no more. And in order for those who come after us have some sense of our existence at this particular period. Then the archive became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it confused me. Then the archive got stolen and lost along the way, which was painful. But there are little bits and pieces of that archive that still exist or that existed. So Faces and Phases is the biggest project that ever existed in Black history or in Africa or beyond. There's nothing like it, for sure, for sure. And it features like ordinary South Africans. And this year marks 14 years since its inception. There are many other images that looks like it, but they were not taken maybe by members of our community on the same community as well. It might be an outsider speaking to us or on our behalf. And then we have more than maybe 500 portraits so far, which are edited from thousands. Yeah. So it's the massive historical document featuring mainly black and white portraits of LBTA++ individuals from South Africa or from Africa.
Why black and white images?
Black and white images are very important. One, I was trained in photography in black and white, but I wanted to create a document that has this classic timeless feel that speaks just beyond time. Color images are accessible, and it means that if one works in color, you need to understand color. And if you work in black and white, you need to have an understanding of black and white. So black and white images are, for me, easy to comprehend than color. I just don't understand color, and I'm really challenged by color, to be honest. So black and white, I was trained in black and white, analog, been to the darkroom process, have an understanding of proofing the work before it becomes that final product. Yeah.
I want to talk about your self-portraits now, and I know that we've got some images somewhere. Do we want to maybe pop them on screen? While you do that, I want to ask you about a project like taking self-portraits.
19? Okay.
Great.
Very good. Thank you.
Awesome. So starting to take self-portraits every day, roughly every day when you can. Why did you start that project?
I went through some issues. Lost the archive in 2012, and then I wanted to fill up the archive, and was in need to document like a new body of work. It wasn't going to replace anything that was lost or stolen, but I needed some healing. I needed to remember me. I needed to look at self more than how I look at the members of my community. And actively, religiously, I shot. Along the way, I lost it because it was just an unnerving feeling, and it was exhausting. So I shot part of 2012. The aim was to create an autobiographical project that speaks to self, confronting my issues, my demons, and all that I was going through at that time. And I was angry, having lost the work that was stolen in my apartment in Cape Town. So then I worked. I wanted to take 365 images documenting throughout that year, and I failed completely because I did not finish the 365. And I stopped the project and I focused on other things. Then 2014, I got back to the project. So I've been like documenting almost daily. I lose part of the month or other days, but I always go back to it. And the project is called Somya Mangonyama, and that features my high contrasted black images, which are part of Photo 2020. Yeah.
Let's talk about the high contrasted images, because often, you know, when there are photos of black people, the contrast is, I don't really know that much about photography, so this might be wrong, but the contrast is often lighter, whereas this in post-production is darker. Where's the decision making that came with that? And just to be clear, it's all in post-production. Nobody's painting faces.
Oh my God.
Let's have that conversation.
We have had like caricatured images of black people for too long. Either sketches, paintings, and all the wrong things that were done by the most racist people that I do not know, that I never met. With Somya Mangonyama, there is no paint used. It's just post-production, which basically encourages people to love themselves, to say, black child, just own your blackness without fear of being vilified or displaced due to your skin color or your race. So instead of going right, I went left. And it's even darker than ever before. And you could see the eyes, and the face is still like looking back at you, forcing you to question or to look. And in that way, you get to learn about what disturbs the other. So that's the choice that I've made. Other than that, I would have gone like far right, which would have been beautiful to those who see, you know, light, beautiful. But I chose black because we're talking like politics of blackness. We're talking about movements of the black body in different space as people suffer or keep on being racial profiled in different spaces where you are told that you have a right to exist, but at the same time you find yourself racial attacked in many spaces. So this is basically to say that let's undo all the wrongs of the past and present. Let us undo racism in every way. Let's use our work to express ourselves in ways that we know how to. Let us decolonize the structures that undermine the black person or black bodies in every way. Let us claim spaces with our own bodies without fearing anyone telling us stories that we are all that is wrong. And reclaim, you know, with our text, with our visuals, with our voices, with our photographies. Let us say that it's okay for many festivals to exist. It's okay to have Photo 2020, but it's also okay to be inclusive in every other way. Let's see ourselves in these spaces, and let's see more of us at these places. So that's what I'm doing with Faces and Phases. Those who might think that LGBTI people of color, black LGBTI people do not exist here, there's so much there out there, and they need to come out in numbers to see Photo 2020 and see themselves or see people like them. And then with Somya Mangonyama, let's own it. Let's own our blackness. Let's be proud of who we are. Let's own our brownness. Let's be proud of who we are. Let us share these narratives of where we come from or where we're heading to without any fears of rejection, etc.
Thank you. I feel like now there would be a round of applause. So if you're at home, little round of applause. I feel like that was, we love that. What did you learn about yourself? Because I know that you do a lot of this educational work and this work where you want people to see themselves represented and a whole manner of things. Taking photos of yourself or a self-portrait every day seems like quite an intimate experience.
No.
It's not.
No. What I've learned about myself, I never thought that I could be exhausted. Photography is exhausting at times, yeah? You gotta be at it and feel it. When the mood is right, do it. Because it's not guaranteed.
Like
that
emotionally
you'll be
exhausting?
Emotionally exhausting. It's tiring, you know? There's one thing to say you're exhausted. There's something else to say you're tired. When you're tired, it's like lightness of exhaustion. And then when you said, like, I'm really deeply out of it, that's where I'm at. But it has been like a good experience. And I have learned to kind of like respect every space where this work has been shown. And I'm excited to know that the reception has been good in many places. And I wish that I could go back home and take all the people who are featuring in this work and say, come to Melbourne, just get there, see yourself and see how proud that other people are when they look at us, you know. So yeah, I've learned that I could be exhausted. I've learned to love me a little bit, because I'm not dead yet. And I have learned to respect every second person who has equipment that documents. Because when people are doing that, they are not only doing it for themselves, but they do it for others. And especially those who wish to do so, but do not have powers to do so. So for those who cannot, but it's done for them and for many other individuals out there.
Speaking of exhaustion and emotional exhaustion, the plight of Black LGBTIQA plus people in South Africa in many ways is a matter of life and death. And you have focused very heavily on that for a long time.
Yes.
How do you keep going?
Having documented a number of participants who have gone or who have experienced hate crimes in South Africa has been such a traumatic experience and a painful one. So how do I go on? I don't go on anymore. I have stopped taking painful images, or I have lessened taking like crime scenes. Maybe I'm no longer going to many painful spaces where somebody has been violated, unlike how I did it 10 years ago, how I did it maybe 15 years ago, because it has not been an easy process. There are people who have just started doing it, and I respect them, and I understand what they are going through, you know. And I may like to encourage them to carry on. For me, it's haunting me now. It's only now that I'm processing the pain that I have witnessed of other people who have gone through so much. You know, speaking to the families or parents of the murdered lesbians, you know, documenting hate crime victims' funeral. It has not been an easy process. So these days I'm processing all that we have documented as a collective then, and also as people who are activists who care so much about the LGBT community in South Africa. It has not been an easy one, you know, because then you document now and then maybe next month or so, you have to, it's like you have to keep on checking on the families. And if you cannot, you feel guilty, because it's like you have taken something of these people and giving also these visual documents of these photographs to the families of their dead children is not also an easy thing to do. So that exchange is always difficult. I'm processing now, then carrying on, you know, because carrying on is another thing. You carry on if you are fit to do so, and if you have strong support structures that encourages you to carry on, you know? Yeah. But if you sleep alone and dealing with pain and pain of others, it becomes something else. So it has not been an easy journey at all.
We know how your work has been received in Melbourne by members of communities and around the world. How about in South Africa?
It depends, you know. I could say that reception differs from one person to the next, you know. As we do that in terms of reception, also it depends on how we conduct this work. Do you understand? There are people who like, there are people who don't like. I just appreciate each and every individual who's featuring in it, because in that way, their way of like receiving is different to the next. Yeah. So reception has been good to those who are benefiting from it. Yeah. And reception is bad to those maybe who feel that they did not become beneficiaries to the whole work. It could either be the participants themselves or be the scholars who do not see why this work, you know? Yeah, so reception is good to those who benefit and who know how to use the work for own purposes, etc.
I know we've got some images to show. Did you want to speak to some of those images, or what do you want to do?
I have 6 images.
Yeah.
And I'll speak on 1 or 2. Yeah, these images, they are from Somya Mangonyama, and I chose these ones specifically because they form part of what's going to be at Photo 2020. And they are from a project that is titled Somyama Ngonyama. I repeat, Somyama Ngonyama, which basically say, Hail the Dark Lioness. We're singing praises to ourselves. We're celebrating our lives in ways that we know how best to do it. And I capture these images to speak on historical events taking place currently, or I'm referencing historical moments. And this image was taken in 2018 in Philadelphia. Philadelphia has its own painful history in the US. I was on residency then, and this image came about. And I wanted to speak on like the constraints that the black body, you know, go through, you know. With a lot of black people I've had that were in prison, and I wanted to produce an image that spoke to that narrative of like pain, of being confined into one space, of being confused. Maybe other people committed those crimes, maybe not, but just the constraints that black bodies faced in different parts of the world. That's just one of them. And this image is taken also in Philadelphia during residence, without now the ropes and the glasses, etc. So that is the opposite of that one, like sensing some freedom of feeling free and breathing, but knowing that anything is possible. It's like Black Queen speaking on Black beauty, being glamorous, and just posing the Black beautiful body in my own private space. This is just like speaking to self, using extensions, which is not my reality, of course, and also speaking on the opposite, to say that it's either light skin, black hair, or the other way around. So I just reversed it as if I was reading a negative. Also, this is New York, Sheraton Hotel, 2019. I just set up my own residency. When I shoot these, there is no particular studio. I just create my own mobile studios. And also, it's one of the images that I would have liked to project at this festival. This is London 2019 in May, titled Momo. And it's like a collab between Renee Musai and myself. And then I just took two letters of our surnames, Musai and Muholi, which then becomes Momo. Renee is Somalian, German, and I'm South African. So these are forms part of our conversations. And we use the material of this fabric to speak on movements and so on. This material being it's like Izmiak coming from a different space, maybe Japan. We as Africans speaking on this cloth of how like black people are able to converse and create or generate a conversation over food, maybe, over fabric, maybe, or sport, just depending. So this is just our conversation as we carry on with this project. So she becomes the curator of the project, and it has traveled to different spaces. So these like conversations between people of like different places, and the image was taken in London in 2019. Thanks.
Round of applause. Yay! For everyone who's live streaming in isolation at home, we're very thankful. I know that there's a question. Yes.
The question is, do you have any photographers or artists, past or present, that you are inspired by?
That's a difficult question. There are so many people that I like whose work might not be known. And there are people that I like whose work is known. So I'll just like introduce my friend who is known, but maybe you might not be familiar with her. I like Lindega Kampi. She's a Cape Town-based photographer and does like amazing photography, and I'm truly inspired by her. In a way, like she triggers so many thoughts. She works with material. She could work with anything and everything. And she's the best color photographer. She understands color photography than me. Lindega Kampi is her name, Cape Town-based photographer. Yeah, and I think that she would have been the best person for this festival. Yeah, yeah, and there are many other people. It might not be photographers per se, writers. You know, I like Cindy Magon, yeah, who is a writer, a South African writer, and she's the best. She speaks to my creations. Yeah.
Is there anything more that you would like to share? I feel like we could continue this conversation forever, but I don't know that we can. Is there anything that you would like to share before we wrap up?
I would like to work here. Not to move away from South Africa, no. I like to come back and collaborate with photographers from here or artists from here. In that way, I think that will be learning one thing or two from each other. So that's collaborations to extend the conversations in a way. Yeah, I'll be back.
Yes. I mean, you've heard it here first. Despite the virus and all manner of things that are happening, it will happen. We put it in the world. Hopefully it'll manifest. Thank you so much for making your way down. Thank you so much for being so generous in this conversation and for all the incredible work that you do, Muholi. Very much appreciated. It's very exciting for me to be here, sitting next to you, having this conversation, having seen your work and been really obsessed with your stuff for a long time.
Thank you. Thanks to you.
So this is the final event of Glenn Murcutt's MPavilion season. And it's been going for 4.5 months with over 250 free events. And over 1,000 collaborators here in the Queen Victoria Gardens. We look forward to the MPavilion 2020 season, which opens in November this year. And on behalf of MPavilion and Photo 2020, Big thank you to everyone who's at home or wherever you are on public transport, maybe in the park, watching this live stream. Be safe and be kind and love on each other and love on yourself. And a big thanks again to Muholi for coming down and doing all this cool stuff. Thank you.